Good morning, Gianna. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you so much for being on this episode of the Chatterbox as well as Booking Around Town. I think you are probably the first person who's been across both of the shows. So, congratulations on being the first.
Well, it's a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you.
Okay, before we get started, this is how I'm going to determine if you and I are going to be friends or not. Okay, so don't be nervous. Um, do you drink Starbucks?
Yes.
Okay, are you team pumpkin spice or team hate pumpkin?
Team pumpkin bread. I want to go with that.
Ugh, okay, well that's close enough. You got pumpkin in there with the team, so okay, we can be friends then.
Okay. I love the pumpkin bread. That's one of my favorite things from Starbucks. I like stare at it in the window every time I see it.
Well, good. At least that's two of my favorite things. So you actually go to Starbucks and you like something pumpkin flavored. So we can stay
Oh,
friends. You're good. You're good to go.
I'm so
Well, I am excited to have you on the show because I've had a chance to kind of go through a couple of the books in the series, and I'm glad to have you here because I'm a big fan of YA, and from what I can tell, just by some of your activities and your writing style, that you are a big fan and a lover and an encourager for children and youth. And so, for listeners who aren't as familiar with you or your work, why don't you start by just kind of giving us a little bit of background about who Gianna is and where she found this passion and this love for writing and for young girls.
sure. So I've been writing since I was very little. When I was, about 6 years old, I wrote my very first story, and I used to do the illustrations and the writing. And all through elementary and middle school, it was a hobby of mine to write my own short stories. As we grow and we go through school, though, activities and actual, writing assignments and classes take precedent.
Mm-hmm.
So those short stories, they started to fade away, a lot more essays, book reports, that sort of thing. But when I was in college, I attended the University of Southern California, USC.
Mm-hmm.
I one day had this idea for the name of the school that would eventually be the school in my books, which is Lady Agnew School for Princesses and Other Female Protagonists.
Mm-hmm.
And it really spoke to me, that name, that phrase. And so I decided that I would run with it. And at the time, I was taking this great class at USC called Classic Contemporary Fairy Tales.
Mm-hmm.
And combined with all the research I was doing into those original stories, it sort of fueled my ideas. And it was like opening a very pleasant Pandora's box of imagination. And I
Mm-hmm.
decided that I would take up writing once again. And so I committed to doing that. And as they say, that's all she wrote, but I'm still writing, so that's how that phrase applies. Um, and so, yeah, that's how the series was originated. And in terms of, me writing to, say, benefit young girls and having that passion for, female empowerment, I've always really had a very big passion for, strength building and really trying to reach your potential and be the best you can be. That can be applied to many different parts of my life. I guess one aspect would be actual physical strength. When I was, little, I was, not very strong. And to be perfectly honest, I was a little round and confused a field mouse. That was the way I
Yeah.
was. I wasn't very athletic. And then I also wore a back brace for several years that
Mm-hmm.
eventually culminated into spine surgeries. So not naturally the most athletically gifted person,
Mm-hmm.
but I really wanted to someday be strong and be the best version of myself. And after my surgery, I started getting in shape and I took on martial arts. And now all these years later, I have a black belt. I actually teach martial arts to children on weekends, just for fun. And that's just one aspect of that. I took control of my life and went, a state of, let's say, weaker being to stronger being. And so I really do believe that, people have the power to change themselves and grow to be something more. And I wanted that essence, that not just be something more, but the desire to do so, to be infused into my writing.
Well, I love that. I love that you have this story, and again, being able to show some of the things that you went through in your personal life and how that shaped you, and being able to share that with others, and especially with readers. And so you have this series that is called the Crisanta Knight series, which is very interesting to me because, first of all, when you, with book one, protagonist bound, to me it's like a book within a book, if that makes sense, because I like that it's kind of, in those movies where the person is speaking to the camera and you're like, okay, they're talking to me. And that's kind of what I get a feel of is, she knows that she's going to possibly, be in a book based on who her parents are. And so where did you kind of get this idea? I know that you took the creative writing course about modern day fairy tales and things. Was that one of the driving factors, or from an early age were you really a big huge fan of fairy tales and thought that this would be a good direction to go in?
Jacques, I have to tell you first off that I'm so glad that you phrased it that way, the whole talking to the camera situation, because that's one of the things I was trying to go for.
Oh, yeah.
I've always, yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to go for, essence-wise. So I'm glad that came across, because in terms of my love of fairy tales, like most modern-day American girls, I grew up with Disney princesses, all around me, and I love them. They were a big part of my growth, and I actually did spend some time working at Disney when I was in college. But one thing that I say has always been a part of me is, I'm very sassy. I like to ask obvious questions, I watched the TV show Sailor Moon when I was little. It was one of my favorites.
Yes.
It was so great. But I would ask questions like, okay, do the monsters just chill out on a bench while they take a solid minute to transform, or what? Things like that, where it's really thinking about, okay, how does this actually work in real life? And so I was the same with fairy tale questions, which is one of the reasons I actually really enjoyed the live action version they did of Beauty and the Beast this past year, because it answered those obvious things that I asked about the animated version when I was little. And so in writing this series, the Crisanta Knight series, and for your listeners who aren't aware, it's the story of children and younger siblings of fairy tale characters who live in a world called Book, where they train to be the next generation of main characters and stories. When I was writing, I really wanted to give it the feel of, if one of us, if a normal, girl of this, this age was dropped into that world, how would we react to it? And it would be a lot more blunt and snarky, because we'd be looking at these literary concepts from a modern lens. Right. And so that's the feel I wanted to, if one of us, if you or I were just dropped into this magical world, how would we actually react to it?
I'd be a little nervous, actually.
Because of the dragons and things.
I mean, and these stories, of course, we want the happily ever after, but it's getting to the happily ever, just like in real life, those things you have to go through and battling certain things. And so, yeah, I'd be a little bit nervous about being dropped into a book, unless I'm, like a fairy or something where I could fly around and be cute and little.
Fair enough. I find it kind of fun for me to write, from this perspective because here you have the main characters who are in fact angry with a prophet called the author, and me being an author, it's an interesting way to like phrase that. You have literary terms and archetypes and genres and talking from like a frank perspective, but me being a writer doing that, it's almost like I'm creating my own like enemies within the pages.
But I like that there's that spin on it because again, as the reader, we can see both. We're kind of like the person that's omnipresent, so we can see both sides of everything that's going on. So from the reader, well, from the perspective of the author, because I'm pretty sure we probably feel like her in the book when the author like kills off a favorite character or something happens and we're just like so it makes sense that we can kind of see where the author is coming from, and so other authors who read it are like, yeah, that's kind of what we do, and then we're kind of in the same space as Crisanta because we're like, I can't believe they did that and don't do that, and I'm gonna write my own story, and I like that feel of it. And so what's been your feedback from the demographic of the persons that you're looking to reach with these books? What have they been saying that they enjoy most about the characters that you've written so far?
So in terms of demographic, I think one of the strengths of this series is the fact that it can appeal to so many. I've done events and readings and gotten reviews from elementary school age to, upwards of, 60, because I think the fact that it is a story that's rooted in something that a lot of people are familiar with, quests for identity, strength, fate, trust. These are all themes that we can relate to. And also this fun, magical setting. So, if you're younger, you can read up. If you're older, you still have, young at heart, you can relate to it from that front. And so I really appreciate the range of people who've enjoyed it. When I do an event and I have an 8-year-old grinning ear to ear because they loved the first book and they can't wait to read the second, or when I'm at work and like one of my colleagues will like say like, I can't believe you did this twist in book 3. It brings me such joy that it gives such joy to different people, because when I set out to do this, obviously a lot of dreams for yourself and ambitions where your writing is concerned, but at the heart of this is a desire to create a story that will fill people out there with the type of joy that my favorite stories have brought to me. And knowing that I've done that is a very fulfilling feeling. I think when I first realized that was when I got like a review from a girl in Germany where she was all about the series and just adored it. And I was like, this person who owes me nothing and doesn't know me at all can feel this way about something I did, then I've done my job. And, obviously you get different types of reviews as you go along. Sometimes you get 5-star, 3-star, or whatever, and it's different strokes for different folks. But to know that there are people out there that love what you've done is a very nice feeling. And so in terms of, feedback, I want to say that my favorite feedback I've gotten, because how can you not be over the moon when people say things like this, is when they refer to Harry Potter. I think that's my ultimate compliment. I've seen some reviews that are like, it's like Hogwarts but with princesses and things like that, or like you like literally feel over the moon, because there's no higher compliment for a fiction writer than to be compared to that.
Well, yeah, that's always good to be compared to what people call a classic, and because I feel a little bit older, so when I hear Hogwarts as a classic, I'm like, really? It wasn't that long ago, and then I'm like, wow, it was 20 plus years ago, and so yeah, I'm feeling a little old now. But you mentioned, and this I need to go back because you said that you worked at Disney in college, so again, that makes us besties because I was also a part of the Walt Disney World College program. And yes, and that's where I kind of, okay, so this is really on subject. So did you find that when you worked at Disney, like ever since then, did you compare all of your jobs to like the Disney experience and going through the courses, did you kind of take all of that with you about how to make sure the guest experience was perfect? Do you still do the Disney point? That's all. That's what I need to know.
Well, yeah, because I think there might be a difference in the type of internship we have. Were you more in like the Disney World, Disneyland hospitality aspect of it?
No, I started when so I was there in 96 and 97.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the beginning, when we started the program, we had to take these courses to earn our ears. And so we did that the first year. And I worked, actually, I did not do guest services until the second year when I went back to do job shadowing. So the first year, I was Walt Disney World College Program. I worked at Mickey's Gift Station. Then the second year, I worked at Crossroads, which was then MGM Studios, which of course now everybody knows is Disney Studios. And so there was a lot of information we got about how to make the guest experience pretty much perfect. And so to me, Disney is like the happiest place on earth. You can go and spend $10,000, but who cares, because you're at Disney and it was fun. And then you get home and you're like, man, we spent a lot of money. But till this day, it's like that's where I found my love of Disney, and I've been a big Disney fan since 1996.
Yeah, my internship, it was a little different in that it was a year-long internship that I had from about a year when I was at USC, and it was actually strictly in the department of field marketing. So I didn't do the sort of, shadowing different aspects that you did. It was strictly in that department, and it was at the studios in Burbank here in California. So that was what the internship was based in. And so a lot of the things that I did were involved with like running the world premieres and helping work the different publicity events. And me and one other girl who had the internship, we were responsible for promoting those films on all college campuses in the Southern California region. And so planning events in that regard. For example, when I was there, that's when Frozen came out. And at USC, I planned this event where we had a Frozen snow day, and we brought like the actual snow machines to cover the quad in snow. And we had, a cappella performances of the songs and chocolate and snowman building contests to promote the film. So that was field marketing, being out there in the world, out there in the field, promoting the movies that were coming out.
Yeah, they had a whole different I just dated myself because it was a little bit different. And because I wasn't in my field of work of broadcasting back then, they just kind of get you into working for Disney. So you didn't really get a chance to pick things that were in your field. And so just by listening to you, you went towards something that was really that fit in your fields that you were studying in college. But again, we're big Disney fans and we're alumni of the college program. So that means that we are going to be friends for life now.
We have two things in common. I love pumpkin and Disney, and for that you can go far.
Yes. So you mentioned that that you're a big fan of Disney princesses and fairy tales. We know that. So what's your favorite fairy tale? Who's your favorite Disney princess?
Okay, those are two separate questions, I feel like.
Yes,
Can I answer
okay. Answer them separately.
Well, growing up, my favorite princess was always Cinderella, and that she'll always have a very special place in my heart because, the whole, dreams can come true if you believe in yourself. Like, it's thing you're when you're little, you see that, it's just beautiful. But I would have to say my favorite Disney princess is probably Tiana from Princess and the Frog.
Okay, hold that thought really quick.
Tiana is probably one of my favorite Disney princesses because, when I saw The Princess and the Frog, it was actually just a perfect timing in that it was, right when I was sending out college applications, and I felt like I was embarking on this new journey. And I still remember I actually saw it at Downtown Disney. Mom and I, we were going to go for Disneyland like a weekend. And I remember seeing that. and just the way this princess, works hard and pushes aside all distractions to focus on her dream and her goal. It really spoke to me. And so that's why I love Tiana. And actually, I wear this little carriage necklace pretty much every day. It's my good luck charm that my mom gave to me when I went off to college, and she gave it to me with a note that says, "Fairy tales can come true. It depends on you," quoting the song from the movie. And so it's just a very big part of the way I was raised, that if you work hard and you go after your dreams with everything you got, then that is a really good way to, accomplish something with your life.
Yeah, I think I've only seen that movie once, but the thing that I love about the Disney princess movies is that you always find something in there now, and you cry because you're like, I can relate to that. That's so true. And I'm kind of jealous that you got to be at Disney when Frozen was released, because oddly enough, I think that was my favorite. That's my favorite Disney princess movie, and it's because the story did not really revolve around the princess or the queen and a man. It was a relationship between the sisters and the love that they had for each other, and I just thought that was so powerful in that. And of course, you have Kristoff and all of that, but still, I mean, I just really, really, really enjoyed that story. And just something about fairy tales, that necklace that you have is just so true. They can come true. And the fact that we, like you say in your books, we can write our own story. It doesn't have to be what people think it is. We have the right to make those things happen and determine how things can go for us. So definitely applaud you on taking the step, and that day you decided that you were going to write the book and write the series, and that it's doing so well. And I know that you recently had a release for book 3 in the series. So how exciting do you get when you still have another release? Does it still feel like the first time when you wrote the first book, or does it feel a little bit different?
It feels better every time. Yeah, the third one came out this past Friday, September 1st, and it's an odd thing, I want to say, writing a series, because it's like you're living in several different times at once, because book 3 just came out. It's now being introduced to the world, and other people are experiencing it for the first time. Meanwhile, while I was preparing for book 3 to launch, recently have been going through edits for my book 4 manuscript, which comes out June 1st, 2018, and also finishing the writing of the book 5 manuscript, which comes out in spring of 2019. So it's like living in all of these different time periods at once, and all these different phases of my character's development at once. But whenever one is finally released to the world, I'm just over the moon, because, like, for example, book 5, right, where no one at all has read it yet, and I can't talk to anybody about it. So it's like, you're just on your own. Like, I guess I'll talk stuffed animal about what cool things I used after. So I get really excited when the books come out, because finally people can see where the story goes, what's happening with the character, and all these crazy twists that I have in mind, and I can share with others. That's a big deal for me, that it's not just in my head anymore. Once I've released it, it's everywhere. It belongs to the world in a sense. So I'm always very excited, and, can't wait to hear what people think. And I think they're going to adore book 3. It's fantastic and very fun, and there's some really good twists in there. So I always feel giddy when a new one comes out. And in all honesty, every aspect of this author life, from like a review to doing event, I don't think I'll ever get over it. Like you say, does it always feel like the first time? It kind of does. Every time I do an event or someone tells me they like some aspect of my book, my heart just glows, and I don't think that feeling will ever go away.
Yeah, and so book three, everyone, is Crisanta Knight, Inherent Fate, which did release on September 1st. It is available on Amazon. Now, are your books sold on any other retailers, or are they just on Amazon?
They're in a lot of places. They're the usual online marketplaces like Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, iBooks, any place you can download an ebook, basically. And then a lot of local bookshops carry them as well. So it just depends on the area, but different places across, the country, different local shops and indie shops carry them and hopefully get them in more as the series develops. So there's a lot of different outlets for where you can order them.
Yeah, I would love to see these in local libraries, because I think there should be. I mean, there's a really big market for YA middle grade, teen books, but they don't get as much. To me, these. I mean, um, they have a fan base, but I would like to see more push for teen books versus young adult, if that makes sense, because young adult sometimes has different context or different it's right on the line of new adult themes, and these books that you have is in such a great area. Like you said, it reaches audiences across different ages, starting with someone who's 8. And I would love to see these in libraries. The covers are cute. It's got a good storyline. So we need to push to have these put in libraries. Let's do
I'm
that.
really, I'm really trying. I actually next week leave on the first leg of my book three tour, and I am speaking at several libraries, several
Yes.
schools, etc., trying to get the books in as many places as possible in front of the right audiences. And I get what
Right.
you're saying about, certain young adult books being on the cusp of maybe being inappropriate for younger audiences.
Right. Yeah. It's
There's a
and
word that I created in college. I, I once tried to put this word in a paper in college. It was rejected by my teacher, but I still say it's a good word. Scandalosity. I feel like that accurately encompasses what we're trying to avoid with this series.
I like it. We're totally hashtagging that word now.
Please do. Around the world, hashtag scandalosity.
I love it. I love it. And so you mentioned earlier that when you first started writing, you were doing the cover designs and the artwork. So did you do the artwork for these book covers, or did you hire out?
A combination of the two. With all the book covers, I draw the original concept arts. I may not be a great oil painter or something like that, but I'm probably the foremost expert on crayon and color pencil drawings you'll ever meet.
Oh, wow.
And so I, I've taken crayons to a new art, Jock. It's pretty intense. Um, I always draw the original design and then come up with a bunch of notes in terms of color schemes, specific things I want incorporated. And then my publisher, on my Crisanta Knight team, I have a great designer called Ellis Dixon, and she makes it all like sexy that you see on the cover in the end.
I love the covers. It's just something about them that's just very unique. It's really interesting when people use, graphics instead of a stock photo, and it's original. And so now when we look at this picture and we read the story, we have an idea of really what Crisanta looks like. And
Mm-hmm.
we might not see her face, but we know what her hair looks like and everything else. But I really like these pictures. They're really cute, and everybody knows that I'm such a book cover snob. In case you didn't know that, I am. And it is those things I think is part of what sells a book. I really do judge books by their covers. I'm sorry, everybody. I do. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, but this is something that I would pick up for my goddaughter and have her read this. And I think she would like it because she's really big on colors too. And so you did such a good job with the concept of the cover. So, good good job on that. I can't say anything
Oh,
better about it. I like them all. So, and I need them in paperback. I'm gonna have to order them now because they need to be on my shelf.
oh yeah, they look quite nice on the shelf I'm looking at right now.
Oh, see, that was a tease. You just teased me, even though I can't see it.
Oh, but thank you so much for saying that. I am right there with you. People always say don't judge a book by its cover, but you totally do. And frankly, my covers are awesome and my books are awesome. Ergo,
Yes,
it makes sense.
that's right. I'm gonna give you a little hand clap sound effect here because they are awesome, and I have a couple of people that I'm going to send these books to and have them do a review on them because I think it's important. If there's a book that's written for a certain age range, not saying that everybody can't read it, but it's important to get feedback on middle grade youth or teens, whoever's reading that, to actually go in and review and let authors know how they think about it, because as an adult I may think about it a certain way, but they may interpret it totally different, so it's good to get that type of feedback as well. And so that's what we're going to do for you. We're going to get some younger persons to read the books and go on one of these retailers and make sure that they send a review in.
Thank you. That's very kind. Yeah, it's really nice to hear the perspectives from different types of readers because, different people, they laugh at different jokes. They're, surprised by different twists. It's always nice to see, what a person's response is to the same story.
Mm-hmm.
And Crisanta, she has a very distinct voice, and some people, react in different ways to it. I wish I could be on a fly on the wall when people are reading because I love to know if, like, the jokes that I make, are coming across at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
But I assume it's working because so far so good.
Yeah, that's always good. You mentioned earlier that when you were writing this character, a little bit about you, and so how much of Geanna or younger version of Geanna is in Crisanta?
I would say, there's a good deal of myself I put in her, and that just is natural when you do write one character's perspective. Your own personality bleeds through, whether intentional or not. I definitely gave her, my sass. I gave her my humor. I gave her, let's say, my strong will, to go against, people telling you what to do, that sort of thing. A comparison I like to use is that Crisanta is to me what Iron Man is to Tony Stark. They share the same core, but they're different forms of a character. They're different. So that's what me and Crisanta Knight are. She's her own person, and she's not exactly like me. There's definitely elements of her that I don't have, but we do share common.
Well, that's good, but you have your own darn, I can't say this, but a strong personality and able to take on situations. And I mean this because you mentioned that you studied martial arts and you also teach martial arts, and I think that that will probably come across too in some of these books. People, make sure you go and read them. And so you do the martial arts. Is that something that you consider to be a pastime of yours? Is that something that you do just to relax and take your mind off of writing? Or are there some other things that you do to kind of give yourself that balance or refocus when you're not working?
Well, I've always loved doing martial arts. I think that goes back to, when I was younger, like I said, I loved Disney princesses, but I also feel very passionate about superheroes. Mm-hmm. And alas, superhero is not a career you can pick up on LinkedIn or something like that. It's not available as a career choice. I really always just wanted to model myself when I was little in like the hero image. And so, living that sort of childhood dream of to be that version of myself, super Geanna, as it were, is always nice. And I do love it. I like being action-packed, as you would call it. And it also really does help my writing in that something I take a great deal of pride in is the action elements of my stories, and that increases as the series goes on. I mean, book one, I want to say, has a lot of, background and world building and things like that. So not as much action as the other books, but once we, get going and we pick it up, with all the action scenes, I want to say I test run them to the best of my ability. Obviously I don't have like a Pegasus or like a dragon handy, so I can't like do everything. But in terms of the physicality, like the sword fights, the way the different weapons work, the hand-to-hand combat, I test all of those things myself to make sure they're plausible. Because like something that irritates me in like stories is when authors make characters do things that don't physically make sense. Yeah. And as average human girl that talking to you, I know what things are easy for you to do in terms of strength and what aren't. And so, when you see a character like do a random like flip off a building somewhere or something like that doesn't seem real, that bothers me. So with her, with Crisanta Knight and all of the characters, I wanted to make their physical abilities, their skill all possible. And so that helps with the martial arts. And I even I remember being in college and I went to go knock on a friend's door and I'd be like, look, this is going to sound weird, but can you tackle me? I need to know how I respond. And I've had a friend, do a mock sword fight with me. And, I take out measuring tape sometimes to scale the size of monsters, like how I would react to that kind of thing. But I want everything to be very, I want to say logical, but see, this is a fantastical world. Yes, there's magic and there's, fairies, mystical creatures and things like that. But just like the main character herself is rooted in an average, normal girl, I wanted the world to be rooted in something real always. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't want anything impossible to happen in this impossible world, if that makes sense. I want all of the things that these characters do to be as realistic as possible. And that's where the martial arts really comes in handy, because I understand movement better, I understand strength better, and so I really do appreciate the extra element that gives to my writing.
I love that you took in consideration and did all of that research, because a lot of times it's so funny. A couple of friends of mine, they put on Facebook, I believe, and they said it just makes no sense, when and people write a story and they show you this heroine and she's like pencil thin and she's fighting these giant whatever, and there's no muscle, and so you took that into consideration to make it more realistic, which I think is good for us, because if you saw me and some paranormal creature came out, doesn't matter how much training I have, I'm pretty much not going to be able to fight some 7-foot monster unless I'm kicking him in the shin or something and hoping I don't break my foot while I'm doing that. But that's some good research that you did. I mean, I'd probably have to try to, I don't know, it just in my head I'm thinking, no, I'm just gonna die, they're gonna step on me, it's all over. But I just see it now, it just doesn't seem like it would go over well for me. I'd have to call Crisanta and have her come and help me.
But what was I going to say? Yeah, so I think that's self, and it's like all aspects of the book I wanted to make seem as real as possible. Like, I got in trouble once last year because I was trying to climb a fence. And the person was like, the security guard said to me, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "You're probably not going to believe me, but I wanted to see how fast a person could scale a fence, because there's like a fence that just to climb in book one." And I was like, "Can a girl do this in combat boots? Let's find out."
I love it. I wish I could just follow you around and see you going and testing out certain things, because I think that would be fun.
Bring some popcorn.
Oh, and chocolate, because wait, you like chocolate chip cookies, I heard.
Oh yeah, I love me some chocolate chip cookies.
I saw that. I was reading your Amazon profile, and it was talking about just kind of the things that you like, chocolate chip cookies, and doing fun things on the weekends, and it seems like your personality, you're a free spirit. Is that a good way for me to describe what kind of person you are?
I want to say kind of two halves in that I have my very free-spirited aspect. I'm silly. I love to have fun. I keep it pretty fresh. But I'm also, on the other side of that coin, extremely disciplined. I very much believe in the whole work hard, play hard lifestyle. And I wouldn't be able to do all the things that I do if I didn't have, discipline and laser focus. But, my personality is I do love to have fun, and like Crisanta Knight, I like to keep it fresh and laugh and, look at the humor and the light in the world. But I think a lot of people think that discipline is one of those things that constricts freedom. To me, discipline gives you more freedom because it allows you to do more and be more than you thought possible. And so in balancing my free-spiritedness with discipline, I'm able to, enjoy life while still being at my most productive.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm still getting there with the whole discipline thing. So I'm just going to have my model. I'm going to model myself after you and use that. The more disciplined I am, the more freer I'll become. If I keep saying that, I will definitely believe that and put that into action.
Yeah, it's I remember when I was little, there's on Nickelodeon, there used to be some sort of campaign for change called Copo, the Pick One Action Dog, and I still remember because it was this great pug, and I loved that dog. But they say that it takes like a certain 21 days to make a break or habit, and I don't know if that number is accurate or not, but I do know that when it comes to changing any aspect of your life, it's just practice. It's just doing it again and again and again, and also reminding yourself what you're doing it for. Most during the week, I get up around 3 in the morning, and to me that's difficult because obviously, no human being should wake up when the moon is still out, but it's also one of my favorite parts of the day because that's when I write before work, and so that love keeps me going strong. And so I think if you love or are passionate enough about why you're changing, then it becomes easier.
Yeah. You see what I got out of this whole conversation? Some notes on how I can be a better person. That's always, I love that. I feed off of all of the persons who come on my show. They always give me something to think about and how I can be better at what I do and who I am. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. And thank you for writing these stories. Thank you for giving Crisanta life. And a voice, and hopefully one day, hint, hint, you will put them on audio, maybe?
Actually, that's in the works right now. Right now, we're in the process of casting the voice actor for Crisanta Knight, and hopefully within the course of the next year, the first 3 audiobooks will be released, and ideally the 4th audiobook coming out at the same time when the 4th book comes out next year.
Awesome. I love it because I am a big fan of audiobooks, so I will be looking forward to that and sharing that as well. So I'd love to have you back on the show on the audio flow next year when your audiobooks come out, and maybe we can have you and the narrator that's selected come on and be a part of that show.
I'd love to return. And obviously, as the books come out, hopefully I continue to dazzle you with those stories.
Yes.
So it'd be great to come back.
All right, perfect. Well, again, congratulations on the release of your latest book, book 3 in the Crisanta Knight series, Inherent Fate, which is available, everybody, on all e-retailers at the moment. And before we go, can you please let everybody know how they can either find you via your website or on social media so they can keep in touch with you?
Sure. Everybody, thank you for listening. If you like, sassy heroines and fantasy adventure, then I hope you pick up Crisanta Knight series, you can go to my website, www.crisantanight.com. That's CRISANTAKNIGHT.com. And you can also connect through me through social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, the full usual spiel and everything. You can see it on the website. But yeah, please do check out the series. Available in print in a lot of bookstores and on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. And like Jacques said, ebook pretty much everywhere. So yeah, check it out. Have some fun. Have a good laugh. I guess I would just say that to finish it up, when you read these books, I think you'll smile. There's definitely books that, make you really tense or agitated. I think you'll smile, and I think you'll laugh, have a good time along the way. So please check it out.
And the book covers make you smile too, because I've been smiling at them and I haven't even read them all. So that's always important too. And also, you mentioned that you were going to be out on a book tour promoting the third book. So want to tell us where you're going to be traveling in case some of our listeners can meet up with you?
Sure. So this coming month, I'm going to be going to Alabama, specifically the Fairhope Mobile region, and then after that going to New Orleans. The FIBA Book Festival is down there. I have some events going on there. And then afterwards to North Florida, Panama City, Point St. Joe, and some other cities in that area. So that's this month. And you can also look on my website in the events section to see other upcoming events for October, November, etc. So if you are down in any of those states, please come by. I'm sure we'll have some good times together.
All right, perfect. So everybody, you know how to stalk Geanna Culbertson now. Just go to her website and search on there for everything, and go and find her at one of those events. It would be good for you to support her. Buy a couple of copies of the books for some youth that you think that the books would help inspire and bring them to reading, because we like to encourage literacy as well. So again, thank you so much for joining us this week on Bookin' Around Town and the Chatterbox, because again, she's our first crossover. And everybody, again, thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to follow us on Facebook at Bookin' Around Town, on Instagram at Bookin' Around Town, and also on iTunes at Bookin' Around. Sorry, not iTunes, that was Twitter, Bookin' Around TWN. Remember, all the episodes are available on iHeartRadio and TuneIn, available for download on iTunes and Google Play, and as always, available as well on YouTube under the Bookin' Around Town station. Thanks so much to my producer Danielle at Firefly Productions and my assistant Rebecca for everything she does to keep me in order. Until next time, everybody, keep booking.